I don't know why that's still going, but okay. Welcome everyone to the GoatCast podcast for January 22nd. Uh, there's some type of echo. Are you getting an echo?
Not on my end, no.
Hold on. Oh, okay. My bad. My bad. That's on me. Okay. So what's up, everybody? That was, technical difficulties. I have my YouTube chat up. Um, and that was throwing me off because I was hearing me. I didn't mute it. So thank you. Anyways, thank you guys for joining us. This is January 22nd, the GoatCast podcast. I am CW. Still little balls. Everything's coming back soon, so I'm not the baldest one again tonight. But got my man BigNige. What's going on, BigNige?
Doing good, doing good. Ready for today's video. It's cold over here in eastern North
Mm.
Carolina, so we getting some snow over here. So I'm loving it. Enjoying the work from home vibes, and yeah, I'm ready for today's video.
Okay, well, we got a little dusting last night, and that is very much gone as of right now. So, back to normal for us. You guys will probably be down for the next 2 weeks with that little bit of snow. But anyway, um, first off, we just want to give our thoughts on about this time last week. We were on a plane flying from Raleigh to Orlando. Uh, and we for that weekend and that couple days in that week we were at a somewhat for the Podfest Expo 2025. We're going to give all our full thoughts on one of our allied channels, alleged actually coming soon, but just some quick thoughts. If you were a podcaster, me myself, I would say go. No matter what level, if you're a beginner, if you're thinking of starting one, if you've had one for the past 2-3 years, I would definitely go to the Podfest Expo, because you're gonna learn something and you're gonna get to network. Before I go any further, shout out to Sports Chasers Podcast, a group we got to meet while we were there, and also Baseline Sports, a 19 Media Group. Shout out to those guys. So, what do you think about Podfest Expo 2025, BigNige?
I think it was a good opportunity for networking, meeting a lot of dope content creators. Um, I was nervous at first because I didn't think we would meet any basketball content creators, but like you mentioned, Sports Chaser and the Baseline podcast, obviously dope people. Glad we got to meet them. Glad we got to learn some things from them, among other content creators that weren't even related to basketball. Just kind of learning the algorithm and the little, innuendos of content creation. So I'm definitely I definitely push for Podfest if you are looking to learn tips on like podcasting, like we're doing now. Definitely check them out next year, and I definitely think you won't be sorry.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, we will go further and deeper on Alleged Ashley, where we will get some people from Podfest that we met, and we'll just kind of discuss what we liked, what we didn't like, and all of those things. But also getting back into the NBA realm, breaking news: Jimmy Butler is suspended 2 more games for missing the flight to, I believe it was Milwaukee. They're playing Milwaukee coming up. He said he was going to take a separate plane, but the team said, "Nah, just stay home." So, is this is Jimmy Butler digging a grave, or is this just par for the course now that that relationship is pretty much broken at this point? What do you think?
I mean, I think everything Jimmy Butler says, everything Jimmy Butler does at this point, because he has so much media um, and the spotlight kind of on him, everybody's kind of just waiting for him to get traded. I mean, we got a couple more weeks until the deadline, which is February 6th. I do expect him to be moved, albeit I am hearing reports of Bradley Beal wanting, excuse me, Bradley Beal is willing to waive his no trade clause for a trade to the Milwaukee Bucks. And there's, I think,
Mm.
Shams has something out there where I believe Bradley Beal would go to Milwaukee. Miami would get Chris Middleton, and I think some more picks as well. And then this would facilitate Jimmy Butler to go to Phoenix. So something to look out for. I'm not entirely sure when you want to break down, this is good for Milwaukee. What is Miami going to do with Middleton if they do get him? And then, of course, you're facilitating that trade where Butler goes to his preferred destination. Is Pat Riley going to play ball for something like that? I'm not sure. So it's just a waiting game. At the end of the day, no matter what you see, no matter what you hear, it's all just a waiting game in terms of Jimmy Butler and where he's going to go.
Okay, that's what I have not heard. Bradley Beal to Milwaukee and Butler to the Suns, and I guess Chris Middleton to Miami. I don't know if I like that, but I mean, it does facilitate where he wants to go. Like you said, Pat Riley. I'm not sure he's a guy that's going to, because some of these older uh, GMs and people that have been around a while, they usually don't do that. I harken it back to Kawhi, and that was not his preferred destination. Was not Toronto, but the Spurs did what was best for the Spurs, which in hindsight might not have been the best for the Spurs, but that was the best they can get at that time. So I don't know. That's an interesting trade, and we'll see. And we will probably do our trade deadline scenarios and our personal trades, where we think some guys should go here in the near future. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, Jimmy Butler is suspended a second time, and not to get off, too off what we're here to do, but this kind of reminds me of a certain other guy that teams were starting to, not really like anymore when he was with who he was with, and that's Dennis Rodman with the Spurs. He was doing some weird stuff, and he became the Dennis Rodman we know today. And teams weren't really looking at him because of his different style, his different lifestyle, things he was doing off the court and even on the court. Teams didn't want to take a chance, but the Chicago Bulls did, and they benefited from that. So could this be a scenario where Jimmy Butler is doing these things? Teams are, teams aren't really looking at him like that because of his off court and even on court antics, and then somebody steals him away, and that's all they need to, get to the next level. I guess we'll have to see, but yeah, I mean, Jimmy Butler is suspended. Just really quick, the Scottie Pippen interview. We're not going to speak on it today. We may do this Friday on the Goat Talk Only show. So be on the lookout for that. But if you haven't heard that interview with his name, Pete Bet David, I believe it is, Valuetainment. Interesting interview. I've touched on it on my other channel, but we'll hopefully get to talk about some of that on this channel, but not tonight because we have something we want to get through tonight, and we don't want to be here for 2-3 hours. Yeah, we'll touch on the Scottie Pippen interview. Have you seen it yet, or just bits and pieces?
I've heard about it. I think I've heard, the only thing I heard about was I think it was MJ would dominate in today's era because like lack of physicality and stuff like that. When I think he was asked like who would benefit better if they like swapped eras, that's the only thing I've heard between LeBron and MJ. If LeBron was in Jordan's era, or if Jordan was in LeBron's era, who would basically be more effective?
That really wasn't talked about, but yeah, I mean something similar. But yeah, check that out, and hopefully we will get to talk about that very soon. I know it's a hot topic, but tonight we had a mission, and that mission is what we're about to bring up, and that's the 2025 midseason tier list for the NBA, where some teams are over halfway done with with this first half of the season, and we're seeing the chips kind of fall in both conferences. So tonight we're going to go ahead and rank them in put them in tiers where we think all these teams will go, and we'll start that here right now. 10 minutes in, so I'm gonna share my screen, and hopefully you'll be able to see it. Can you see the tier list?
Yep, I see
Okay.
it.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. See everything good?
Yeah, I think I got it. I got GOAT, playoffs, play-in,
Okay.
sneaky, and then Cooper Flag.
Yeah. So here's our tiers. This is the tiers I came up with. Um, if you're cream of the crop, if you're a play or championship contender, you're in the GOAT tier. If you're just a playoff team, but you could potentially get to that next level, your playoffs. If you're playing your team that we're not really worried about, but you'll probably make it into you'll be in the top, you'll be in that 10 spot, 10 through what is 7 spot. But we're not worried about you. That's playing sneaky as teams that may not look like it right now. There's still a second half to the season that could maybe um, somehow sneak into that playing spot, those playing spots that we're not really talking about that are actually playing a little better than we expect. So that's the sneaky group, and of course, the teams that are playing to be able to draft the services of Cooper Flagg, which are many on this list. But so I guess we're gonna move around. We're not gonna go straight alphabetical A through W. We're gonna move around some. So we can give some suspense for some of these teams. But we will start with the A group, Atlanta Hawks, who you say is a team that could potentially upset a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are right now one of the best teams in the NBA. So where would you put, or where should we put the Atlanta Hawks? Are they a solid playoff team? Maybe play in. I think they're a solid playoff team, but where do you put the Atlanta Hawks right now?
Do you have? I believe. Where are they right now? Are they
Okay, yeah,
six?
my bad. I have that pulled up. Let me get it real quick. Um, if my phone will. Right
Either
now
way,
they are six seed. They are 22-20 in the Eastern Conference.
I think I think they're in the middle between sneaky and play-in, or excuse
Oh,
me,
you don't have
playoffs
them
and
what?
play-in. Sorry, I misread that. I think they're comfortable in the play-in. I don't think they're a play-in team. I just think
Mhm.
that they'll kind of be stagnant. They'll kind of fluctuate up and down
Ooh.
between probably anywhere from the 6th seed. I don't see them going much higher than the 6th seed, and they could probably shoot as low as the 8th seed. So that's why I'm kind of like teetering in that play-in playoff. But make no mistake about it, I definitely think that the Atlanta Hawks are a team to be reckoned with. They've shown in this season, in just this first half of the season, they've shown they can beat the likes of Cleveland, Boston, and they can compete with OKC as well. So it's their team that I would be if I was one of those top seeds in the Eastern Conference, I wouldn't want to play them. I didn't get to mention it on our hot takes video last week, but yeah, I think Atlanta is that good. I think Trey Young has kind of reshaped his game this season, allowing the other guys to thrive, like the Jalen Johnsons of the world, DeAndre Hunter, who's coming off in damn near six man of the year. So you got him. You got the defensive versatility of a Dyson Daniels. We already know what Capella can do. We got somewhat of the emergence of Onyeka Kongwu, and what he did against Boston late down the stretch, where he was able to get those offensive rebounds to, kind of steal that game from Boston. So yeah, I think playing is fair for where they're at right now because I definitely think they can still shift in the standings, but I think they're definitely going to make the playoffs, and I think they're going to be a tough out in the first round for any of the top seeds.
I agree. Let me test something. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I don't think my right microphone is coming through. Um, so let me fix that real quick. Um, sorry about this. Let me see. Uh,
All right. I guess we will give him a couple seconds. And while we do that, I'm gonna just I guess I'll mainly just talk about obviously the
Yeah, I'm back. It was just I didn't want to have to. Um, what's going on, King Speech? I just didn't want the. It was pulling from my webcam um, microphone. So let's skip right back to this tier list.
I don't believe your face is showing or your camera is turned on.
Let's see.
We can hear you. I just don't see your face, so I'm
Okay.
not sure.
Do you see me now?
No.
Okay. Hold on 1 second.
Well, while he's going through that, I think the next team on the list was the Boston Celtics, and I think everybody has them as a GOAT tier team. Definitely the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. Even though teams like Cleveland and New York have kind of come on strong, I definitely think that they still have to go through Boston regardless. I was just kind of telling them about Boston just
Okay.
because I know they're the next team and how we pretty much both know that they're a GOAT tier team already, even though we've seen Cleveland, we've seen New York, and various other teams compete with them. They still have to get through Boston in the Eastern Conference. That's why I believe they're a
Absolutely.
GOAT tier
And
team.
we're going to so yeah, we're going to move to Boston. Um yeah, sorry guys for the technical difficulties. That's what happens when you rush. But the Boston Celtics. I think this is obvious, but I'll let you tell it who you got.
So
Where you
yeah,
got?
again, not to repeat too much, but yeah, they're to me they're the GOAT tier team. I think they're the only team in both top five in offense and defensive rating. Um,
Mhm.
we already know what Boston is. We know that everybody in the East has to go through them at some point. So until proven otherwise, they're the best team in the East, and yeah, they're a GOAT tier team.
Okay. And King Speech, let me know if you'll be available Friday. We got a few things to talk about. We're gonna move over to the we're gonna go back and forth. We're gonna move to the Washington Wizards because I don't want to give y'all all the good teams at once. So Washington Wizards, they got to be Cooper Flag bound.
Yeah, there ain't
Yeah.
nothing much to say there. They're improved, and I think what Washington will do, I think they'll be a defensive team first when they come onto the scene because they've shown flashes with their young core, of course.
Yeah.
But I definitely think defense is going to be their calling card, which is going to kind of unlock their offense. Kind of similar to a Houston Rockets team. Like if
Yeah.
you were to put an Ime Udoka on that Wizard squad, I think he would have them looking more concrete, more fleshed out on defense, which would then allow their offensive players to kind of develop their games as time goes on, so that when their defense becomes, mid level or top 10 potentially, their offense is kind of what's trailing behind.
So yeah, how would you would you think of an Alex Sarr Cooper Flag duo tandem? Would that be something that would be threatening to teams going forward into the 2026 season?
Mm, I wouldn't say the word threatening. I would say it,
Okay.
it would be interesting to watch. Don't get me
Okay.
wrong. I think Alex Sarr's offensive game is to be determined. We've seen flashes of his defense. Obviously, he's one of the leading shot blockers. Obviously, leads the Wizards, of course, but I think he's
Yes.
averaging around 2 blocks a game. So
Yeah.
he's
He's
doing some things on
right.
the defensive end, showing some switchability at times. But to say that him and Cooper Flag would be something interesting. I think there's a lot to be seen with that. So I would say probably not. I think Cooper Flag fits better with a team that's already got the requisite pieces around him for him to just kind of come in and play. I think I think the Wizards would honestly be probably the worst team he could go to because they're going to rely on him to do so much more early on.
Even with a Jordan Poole
Yeah, I mean,
and
Jordan
Kuzma.
Poole's going Jordan Poole, Kuzma, you're taking shots, taking the ball out of Cooper Flagg's hands, which I think he's going to be kind of a player who needs the ball in his hands. Maybe not to create, for others, but definitely for himself. So yeah, I don't really like him on the Wizards. I think I don't really know. I mean, I if they could, I would low key try to see him more in Charlotte if we're talking about another team. Like
Well,
I think
I
a
mean,
pair of him and LaMelo is way better than a pairing of him and Sar or him and Jordan Poole, personally speaking.
from the great state of North Carolina, I would absolutely love that for us to get something to kind of cheer for. Even though Lamelo's doing his thing, but we just need a little bit more, to get us local residents hyped about the Charlotte Hornets. But Washington's doing the best they can to get Cooper Flagg. They are 6-36, so
Yeah.
they're fighting this. They're fighting to be the worst. The
Spooky.
Utah Jazz, another team that is, to me, they have been somewhat disappointing this year. I thought they would be a little bit better. Between Lauren Markkinen and was it Colin Sexton?
Mm-hmm.
I thought they would be, I thought Markkinen, they don't have the best team, but I thought they would be a little bit. They would kind of fight some. They would maybe be in that 11-10 range, but right now, the last place in the Western Conference, sitting at 10-31. So where would you put the Utah Jazz? I mean, it's pretty obvious, but
Yeah, it's Cooper Flag. Only thing worth mentioning. I mean, Colin Sexton is looking like a solid backup point guard. Maybe a contender could look to swindle him from the Utah Jazz because he's not playing any meaningful basketball over there. But I mean, again, just a young team that needs time to kind of get their act together. I don't really know what you want to do with Laurie. I mean, they did extend him, but like, I don't really know. I think they're in that rebuild mode, of course, but nothing. If you're a Utah fan, there's not much to look forward to because you got some aging players on the roster, you got expiring contracts, but Cooper Flag sweepstakes, that's the best y'all got.
yep. And it looks like we're going to have a lot of Cooper Flag candidates because we're going to jump right back up to the Charlotte Hornets. Another team I had high hopes for. I thought, especially early in the season, that they had, turned a new leaf. LaMelo playing great. He had a few injury issues early. Brandon Miller, I thought is playing better. No, I can't remember the center. What's the center's name?
For the Hornets,
For the Hornets, yeah. That was
they
playing
have
pretty good.
Mark Williams. I know Diabate
Yeah.
was playing a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, so I thought they had a team that could be that we could put in a sneaky tier, but as we've seen, I'm gonna put them a high Cooper Flag because they're playing pretty good. But to me, they are Cooper Flag bound. We pull up their record so far. They are right now 11-28, so pretty sad. So yeah, what's your thoughts on Charlotte Hornets this season?
I'll be honest with you. The only time I watch the Hornets is when LaMelo's kind of going crazy. I mean, obviously, was it, um, he's looking like one of the best guards in the East. But again, health is a big concern for him. Um, Not much else. I mean, I know Grant Williams went down earlier in the season. Mark Williams, between him and Nick Richards, before Nick Richards moved, when he got traded to Phoenix, they looked kind of, I don't know, kind of awkward together. So moving on from one gave the other kind of more room to kind of do his thing. Diabate's looked pretty good for that team. I forgot the other name of that rookie. It's like Norman or something, but he's looked okay for them. There's not much exciting things to look for if you're a Hornets fan. So definitely looking forward to the Cooper Flag sweepstakes because I think his fit on that team, being a power forward in today's league, I think him and LaMelo could do some things in Charlotte, and that could be the duo that we thought Brandon and LaMelo was. Maybe they could be a semi big three and just flesh out the rest of the roster and get out of the Miles Bridges thing. Just it's time, bro. Just I'm sorry, Miles Bridges. He's not that good. I don't really like him. He shoots too many threes. He just needs to move on. It's time. Like I know he's had some controversial things off the floor as well, but just it's time to move on from him. Charlotte, stop paying this man so much money. He's not that good. He's okay, but he's not good enough to be taking as many shots as he takes.
I definitely agree. So keep Cooper Flagg in North Carolina. Um, Moving on, Chicago Bulls, currently 19-25. Not bad right now. They're seated. If all things were to end tonight, they would be in the play-in tournament. So yeah, I'm a big Kobe White fan because he, of course, he was a former Tar Heel. But other than that, Vucevic, Zach Levine, excuse me, those guys are all, even Patrick Williams, they're all guys that are on the trade block where Chicago is ready to sell. So even though they're not terrible right now, I mean, that's not a great record, but it is good enough to land them in a play-in spot. Uh, where would you put the Chicago Bulls right now? Since I mean, we all know that they're a selling team, so most of those guys will probably be able to move come trade deadline time if they can find some suitors. So, do you think they are Cooper Flag bound, or could they be a sneaky team that might be able to stay in the play-in range?
I think if Chicago has any common sense, they go in full sell mode and just start losing. Like put a Washington Wizards esque performance out there and just start losing some games. Like there's no need to be mediocre anymore in the Eastern Conference. Like it's just time. Like Levine has made himself look really attractive to a lot of contending teams. Move on from him. Move on from Vooch. And Lonzo's looked pretty solid so far. I mean, I think he just started starting a few games ago. I like what I see from him. Just glad he's back on the court, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Obviously, you could probably get some things for Kobe White. Probably don't want to keep him for your young core. Just full on
Mm,
like any kind of player that's contributing to winning right now. Get picks, get assets, just get what you can because
mm,
you guys as Chicago need to be in these top. Y'all need to be lottery. And I know you guys got some stiff competition with Washington and Toronto stinking it up. The Hornets aren't too far from them, but y'all have a chance. It's time. Y'all need to start tanking because y'all are not going to have any future with Levine, with Vooch, because all these guys are getting up there in age. It's time. Cooper Flag sweepstakes is where they need to be.
okay. So that's where they need to be, but do you think they're going to do that? Do you think because I think truth be told, the NBA, we got ratings declining. Chicago Bulls are a large market. They're a big market. Are they wanting a team like Chicago to fall and to be in that Cooper Flag sweepstakes? Is Cooper Flag a guy that is Wimby esque, where they can kind of put a machine behind him and kind of, put him in the limelight early?
Uh Again, we're talking about Cooper Flag now being more of an
Mhm,
offensive creator. Like I said, I don't really see that. I think he looks better with another like traditional point guard around him.
mhm,
Um, so like I said, I don't like his fit in Chicago. I mean, unless you somehow just want to keep Lonzo Ball and maybe have Lonzo kind of build him up, similar to what Lonzo did for Zion earlier in his career. Another power forward who could pretty athletic. Maybe obviously Cooper's not as athletic as Zion, but can make Cooper's job a lot easier if you were to keep him. But
mm,
nonetheless, I don't see Chicago being the fit for him. I think somebody like Ace Bailey probably would be better for Chicago, just a bona fide scorer who's kind of a raw prospect right now, but can score at all three levels. Pretty damn good for a lottery pick. So I think Ace Bailey is more what I would go for if I was Chicago because he's, that 6'10, 6'11, scoring machine. And that's what they need. They need somebody to finally look to the savior, maybe not no MJ savior, but just somebody to look forward to every day because the mediocrity that Chicago Bulls have been for the last few seasons, it's just it's time for something to change because clearly they're not good enough to compete. So
Okay. So we're not going to stay on the Chicago Bulls too long, but I got just one more thing. So if you were the GM for Chicago Bulls, y'all are a large market franchise.
mhm.
Do you go for best fit as far as winnability, or do you go best fit as far as marketability? As far as you could market probably Cooper Flagg a little better than you can Ace Bailey. So do you go for the basketball pick, or do you go for who will maybe help sell out arenas?
I would go basketball pick. I mean,
Okay.
because Chicago's is a big market, so like,
Mhm.
getting people there, I don't think will be the issue as long as you put good basketball for the fans to watch, for them to believe in. Everything else will work itself out. Obviously, you still need to make good decisions, financially, so that you can have the cap to bring in pieces to help your young star. But just making a market move for Chicago doesn't make a lot of sense just because they're a big team, they're a big name, and they can get people to come there. That's never been their issue. It's just when they had their core and they were derailed by injuries, when they had the Lonzo, the Caruso, the DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic
Mhm.
kind of experiment lineup. Obviously, they didn't get what they thought from Patrick Williams, so that's been more of a dunce for them. But if you just kind of reset, retool, I think you'll be right back in the hunt, maybe in like five to 6 seasons. So you
Okay.
just kind of work your way back, small, maybe soft rebuild, and just kind of get yourself back to where you could see yourself in the future.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna move on to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have the best record in the NBA right now. They're sitting at 36-6. Last week, if you joined in with myself, BigNige, and King Speech, we talked about them potentially being a 70-win team, and so far it looks like they can potentially get there. So I think it's obvious, but I'll let you do the honors. Where should the Cleveland Cavaliers go in our tier list?
If we're speaking just regular season and how they've looked for the
Oh,
first half of the
okay.
season,
We
we're
analyzing this. Okay.
we're going to put them in the GOAT tier. Now,
Okay.
if this was the rest of the season and all that, I don't want to put them on the same footing as Boston. But if
Mm,
we're talking specifically regular season, them being on a historic pace, just like another team we're going to be talking about on here, you have to put them in the GOAT tier because they have looked phenomenal on both ends of the court, top to bottom, one through damn near 12 men on the roster, all contributing, all playing hard. Got to reward them for their efforts on both sides of the ball. So I have them on GOAT tier.
okay. Now, a team that I'm sure will be in that GOAT tier, the Toronto Raptors, 11-32 right now. Um, I mean, we're not going to spend any time. They're in the Cooper Flag tier. I'm not even going to put them over Charlotte right now. I think Charlotte's a better team. Any extra you got to say about that?
If they are looking to sell, I know a Western Conference team who could use a center of the likes of Jakob Poto, who's probably the best, one of the best defensive big men like in the market, in the buyout or trade market as of right now. So hey, if y'all looking for somebody for a big man, hey Lakers, give them a phone call. That's all.
Yeah. So no Laker love here. We're gonna keep it moving. Dallas Mavericks, they are coming off of a phenomenal season last year. They were finals bound. We all kind of figured this was Luka Doncic's MVP to lose this season because of how he showed up last year in the postseason and even in the regular season last year. He was a perennial MVP at that time. But right now they sit at seventh in the West. Luka's been injured for a while. I'm not sure when he'll be back. They have the big signing with Klay Thompson. He's he's shown up at least, at times. So the Dallas Mavericks, are we Where do we put them? For me, I would say the playoffs. I think they're a solid playoff team. I'm not even real strong on them, but I feel like if Luca comes back and Luca has some type of, if his health is okay, I think he'll will that team to at least a second round berth if they once they get into the playoffs. So, what do you say about the Dallas Mavericks?
I think right now, I think as currently constructed, how they look, at least for the first half of this season, they look like a playoff team. I will say this season has been riddled with injuries. And what I will say, going on to the second half of the season, because like I said, we don't know when Luca's going to come back. Lively just went down for I think 2 to 3 months with his
Mm-hmm.
injury, and PJ Washington's been in and out of the lineup. Kyrie's been in and out of the lineup. What I will say is, if they can keep whatever seed right now, they're at seventh. So if they can just keep out of the playing, maybe. But even if they are a playing team, whatever, they'll have so much rest accumulated through this regular season that if they just get in the postseason and say, like we talked about last week, they get matched up with Houston. Who you got against Houston and Dallas? If you're smart, you would say Dallas. And so they could find themselves still in the postseason, still beating up on whatever seed that comes in front of them, and they're going to be well rested for a long postseason run. So you have to look at that as well. But again, we're just talking about the first half of the season. They've beaten some teams. They beat OKC off a back to back. They've competed with other high level teams in both conferences. So
Mm-hmm.
with their core, they are a playoff team, and they'd be higher, honestly, if Luca hadn't gone down so early.
Yeah, can't argue with that at all. I'm a I'm a cheer this team myself with no commentary from BigNige. San Antonio Spurs.
Let's hear it.
So the San Antonio Spurs right now,
Mm-hmm.
they had me at the beginning. I thought, man, Wemby has turned this team around. We were in the playing range, but we were still winning games. Right now, we're sitting at 19-22.
Yeah. What's up?
So I don't care. They are playoff bound. I don't
What?
care. I do not
What?
care. I don't care.
No, no,
I
come
don't
on, come
care.
on now.
I do
No,
not care.
stop it.
Wimby is going to will this team. Wimby with a semi-healthy CP3 is going to will this team into the playoffs. They've had a stretch of bad luck. I wish Pop would come back because I think I think Wimby needs a little toughness from Pop. I think he's getting a little bit too happy with that 3-point shot. But I think we get into the playoffs. And I think, well, I'm not going to say we're going to be a dangerous team, but I think we can challenge some of these playoff teams.
Challenge them for the play-in.
But I'm joking. We're going into
I
play
was
in.
about to say. I was about to
There's
ask.
no way the Spurs
I
team.
was
I'm not
about
going to
to
put a 19
say.
and 22 team into the playoffs. They're mediocre. They go as far as Wemby takes them, and Wemby can be just not that guy on nights. And when he's not that guy, they normally lose. So to put that kind of pressure on what is he, 20? Then he just turned 21, something like that. 21-year-old. It's too much. I mean, I got to be real. I'm a Spurs fan. I want Wemby to succeed. I want them to succeed, but I can't put them any lower because I think they have the pieces. I mean, when Keldon Johnson's playing well, they play well. When Devin Vassell is playing well, they play well. Champagne or whatever you say, however you say his last name, he will shoot you in. He will shoot you out of a game. Stephon Castle, if he could truly find his confidence, because some games he is phenomenal, and then in other games he just kind of sits back and does whatever. If he can find his confidence and really be confident, I think he's such a solid wing player that he can. I'm not gonna call him Ginobili style, but he is a guy that can get you buckets that you need in a at a crucial time. Same with Vassell. Same with Keldon Johnson. So I don't think they are a playoff team per se, but I think they have a chance to get into the playoffs. They're a play-in team. So my long soliloquy is over. Let's go to the Denver Nuggets, who currently are fourth place. Let me bring up their record. Haven't had the greatest season so far, but they are 27-16. We've talked about Nikola Jokic. He's MVP level as usual. Russell Westbrook has definitely upped his stock. Jamal Murray, not so much. The other guys, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, they do what they do, but it hasn't been as effective as seasons before. So where would you put the Denver Nuggets?
I think Denver is a solid playoff team. I know they started the season kind of shaky, and Russell Westbrook had a pretty terrible start when he was at the bottom of the league in efficiency. He sensed and Jokic both picked up their games to a phenomenal level. Out here getting triple doubles together. Can't say enough great things about them. Michael Porter Jr. stepped it up as well. Getting Aaron Gordon back for the latter part of the bulk of the last few games, like 20,
Mhm.
15, 20 games or so, has helped them, secure some of those late game defensive possessions and rebounds and things of that nature. So, yeah, they're a playoff team. Jokic is definitely in the MVP discussion, no doubt. And Russell Westbrook is kind of setting the narrative straight on his career. And he can play for 40 million or 2 million. He's going to give you effort. He's going to give you heart.
Yeah,
And you can't take nothing away from a guy like Russell Westbrook. Great fit. And I did call his fit on my preseason rankings for the
you did.
Denver Nuggets. I called this fit, so I'm glad I'm seeing it, and I wish Russell Westbrook nothing but success.
But I have to admit, I called it too. I thought Russell Westbrook was a perfect addition to that Denver Nugget team because that's what Mike Malone expects. He just wants those guys to play hard, and if you play hard, you get rewarded in that system. So, uh, yeah, I think Denver's a solid playoff team. I always put them ahead of the Mavs because I think um, their style of play is so much different. They're probably the most different team in the NBA because they don't rely on the three ball a lot. They shoot it, but they don't shoot it at a rate like Boston or any of those, or Cleveland or any of those other teams. They can just beat you from Jokic distributing the ball. So they have so many weapons when it comes to getting easy buckets, which a lot of teams don't. You got to think that when it comes to playoffs where things slow down, that just fits the Denver Nuggets style perfectly. And now Jokic doesn't have to worry about having to play against Rudy Gobert and Cat, so he doesn't have to worry about getting worn down. So no team. I don't think any team out west right now has two solid bigs that can just they Cleveland can give Jokic some trouble with Mobley and Allen, but not in the West. So look out for the Denver Nuggets. A team that you were high on during the when you did your preseason picks, the Sacramento Kings. They have kind of sputtered into the first half of the season, but seem to be on the rise ever since getting rid of Mike Brown. Um, so what do you think? Are Sacramento Kings, where do you put them? Are they Cooper Flagg, sneaky, play-in playoffs? I know they're not GOAT, but
Nah,
where would you put?
I think after getting the departure of Mike Brown, they have looked like one of the best teams in basketball through these last 15 games or so. Um, so with that, I think they were in a Cooper Flag sneaky before uh, before the departure of Mike Brown. So now I think they're solidly in the play-in spot. I mean, they're sitting
Yep,
at 8th in the Western Conference at 22
yep,
and 20.
2022. So they've got a winning record. I got to put them on my Spurs.
Yeah. I think just like how I said Atlanta can like sneak up on some of those top tier teams in the East, I think Sacramento is the same way. It's like they have new life. Keegan
Yeah,
Murray starting to hit his shots now. De'Aaron Fox is starting to look again as marvelous as he has in seasons past. Sabonis is leading the entire league in rebounding. So they have they got a trio, a trifecta right there with DeMar DeRozan hitting clutch shots in the fourth quarters now. So they're a sneaky team, and they're just a playing team for me because they're the eighth seed, and I could see them moving around some, but definitely going to be a interesting matchup for any of the top seeds in the Western Conference.
Absolutely. So let's go to a team that was Cooper Flagg bound almost all season last season, but seemed to be correcting those wrongs. The Detroit Pistons right now, Cade Cunningham looks like an all-star. Will he make it? We'll see. What's his name? Duran looks like a solid big double machine. He's wonderful on my fantasy league team.
Mhm.
Where would you put Detroit? Me personally, they got to be a sneaky team because I think they can. Let me pull up their record right now. They
22 and
are
21.
22 and 21, so
Mhm.
they are actually seventh out
Mhm.
east. I don't know how much I trust them to stay in that seventh seed kind of range, but what do you think? I'll let you
I
lead
think
on this one.
obviously, I think Detroit has surprised a lot of people this season. That's for
Mhm.
sure. I think Orlando being so low, they've kind of benefited from the injuries that Orlando has with Paulo, him just getting back, and Franz still out, but he's on his way back maybe in next 10, 15 games or so. Um, and Orlando's still fighting. Just want to throw that out there. But yeah, Detroit 7-3 in their last 10. I say they're a play-in team. I don't think because when you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference and we, as constructed, maybe Philadelphia moves up a little bit, maybe Chicago drops, but I don't see Detroit dropping any lower than maybe the ninth seed. Maybe with the Miami stuff, maybe you can say I think they're better than Miami currently right now on both sides of the ball for sure. But needless to say, I think they're a playing team. I think this is gonna be their first time where they have a potential to make the playoffs and feels like forever at this point. But nah, they've looked good. Obviously, you can't say enough great things about Cade Cunningham. Jaden Ivey before he went down. The addition of Tobias Harris, not so much for offensive, but he's helping in their rebounding department. Jalen Duran, obviously, and even guys like dang, what was that dude's name that they just got? The shooter, Beasley. Yeah, Beasley. They got him,
Beasley.
and he's shot it. He's lit up a couple teams. He lit up the Lakers a while back ago too. So a lot of good things for them, and I do see them making the playoffs this year, but through the play-in.
And one more quick sidebar. If you had to choose right now,
Mm-hmm.
I know LaMelo, I believe, is top spot in the fan vote for All-Star team.
Mm-hmm.
Do you put LaMelo over Cade to make the All-Star team?
Ooh, it really depends on what they value, but one guy's the seventh seed and the other guy's the 13th seed. I would give the nod to Cade if we're talking about winning, if we're taking winning into consideration. But even still, he has to go through, is he going to be over Garland and Mitchell? Is he going to be over Brown? Is he going to be over Dame? Obviously, he's over Hallie because Hallie's been kind of butt cheeks this season. But you got the Brunson burner over there in New York. You got Trey Young. He's got a lot of some stiff competition in the Eastern Conference. So even if you edge him out over LaMelo, he still got that list of people I just named over him. So it just depends, man. It really just depends.
And do you think even if LaMelo wins the fan vote, because you got to do, I believe you have the media vote and the player vote for
Mhm.
starters as well. Does he make the starting? Do they move? Maybe I don't know about Garland, but they moved Donovan Mitchell up into that role. I mean, he's not a point guard, but um,
I think
do
LaMelo would be the best option for an all-star game because his game translate to the flashy, the
I
sexy
agree.
all-star
I agree.
level passes and stuff like that. So I would like to see LaMelo over all those guys personally for an all-star game,
I agree.
but they're 13th, so it's hard. It's hard to push for them, honestly.
Yeah. So we'll see. And we'll do our All Star selections in the coming weeks, which probably next week. A team that is tearing it up right now, the Portland Trailblazers, 15-28. Uh, I think we know where they're going.
Yeah, we Cooper
I don't think.
Flagg big time. Shout out Scoot Henderson though. You've been playing good in his last 4 or 5 games, averaging
Yeah,
about
he's
23 and a
turning
half
around
points.
after a disappointing rookie season. I think him and Brandon Miller have kind of changed the perception of their careers. Um,
Beating the bust allegations. Shout out Scoot.
yeah, oh yeah, we like to see that. A very popular team, but a team that is struggling mightily right now. Came out the gate looking like they would be look like the changes they made over the offseason didn't matter. Golden State Warriors, currently sitting at 11th, 21-21. They're at 500 at least. But they have not looked like the Golden State Warriors of old. They made those changes. They lost Clay. They brought in Buddy Hield. Uh, Still have Andrew Wiggins, of course, Draymond, Steph, Looney, those guys. Um, so what do you think? The Golden State Warriors. To me, they're a tough team to kind of gauge, but what's your gauge on Golden State?
I think as currently constructed, looking at how they've played, starting extremely hot, top of the Western Conference, Buddy Hield looked like the second coming of Ray Allen, Klay Thompson hybrid, whatever you want to throw him out there as. But the East came down to earth, and so has the rest of the roster. Won't spend too much time. I think they're anywhere between playing and sneaky. They
Sneaky
just
looking
don't.
lonely, so we're gonna put them in sneaky.
I mean, if we're gonna be honest, I would low key swap them in the Spurs. I think the Spurs should be the sneaky team, and teams like
Mm.
Golden
Ain't no,
State
I'm
and
not doing it.
Phoenix should be playing. But
I'm not doing it. I'm
I
not doing it.
digress.
So I'll pull
But
rank CW, the one that's always right, had to pull rank tonight. But
that's
yeah,
what's
Golden State, I think sneaky. I mean, I could bump them up to play in because looking at the West, West is tough this year though.
They'd be a lot tougher if Towns didn't get traded, but they ain't ready for that comment.
It would exactly. Minnesota definitely is hurting from that trade. Phoenix, we got to see what they do with Bill if they actually trade Bill and what they get in return. So yeah, it's a tough. So we might change our mind at the end. But speaking of Phoenix, we're gonna move to the Phoenix Suns. Currently 10th, but they have a 21-21 record, just like the Golden State Warriors. They don't look that great. Nurkic is Nurkic. KD's playing solid. Devin Booker is playing solid. Bradley Beal has not been Bradley Beal, but he hasn't been that since he got there. Where does the Phoenix Suns go? Because they're to me they're another tricky team because they can be world beaters at certain times and then look like they want Cooper Flagg for next season at other times. So
I think they're right there with Golden State. Wherever you put Golden State, you can't put Phoenix much higher or lower than them. I think both teams are both sitting at 500. I think Phoenix is up right now, so they're the 10th seed. But how the West is looking, barring a Timberwolves meltdown, they're really going to be competing for that 10th spot because everybody on the West is better than them, and it looks like it'll stay that way going into the second half of the season, assuming health. So yeah, man, it's looking sneaky for probably both those teams, unless you want to flip them Spurs, then yeah, they both might be playing teams, but yeah, this is gonna be rough.
Spurs.
But yeah, maybe the trading of Bill, maybe if you get a Butler, you could win some more games because you can address some of the needs that your team needs. No pun intended, but nah, yeah, I think they're a sneaky team. Yeah. I want to say playing, but
the
Spurs are in the way.
I'll put them over my. I'm put them even over my Spurs, but my Spurs I'm keeping out of playing. But yeah, if the Suns can somehow flip to Butler, if they can just make it into the playoffs, they'll be a very sneaky, tough team to get out of the playoffs. Not like last year where they got those brooms put on them. I think they'll be
Yeah,
pretty tough, no matter
they
who they
they,
play.
they don't want to see Houston though. I'll tell you that much. That team is similar to how we saw last season. Even though they're not as big as Minnesota was last season, the defensive tenacity. I'm telling you, the Phoenix
So
Suns do not want to see Houston. That's the first round matchup when I talked about last week. That you got to get the right matchup if you're a Houston. If I'm Houston, I want Phoenix because we can clamp down on them, and we are bigger than them. We're more physical than them. And yes, you have Kevin Durant and Booker, but all we got to do is contain one of them. The other person can go off. The rest of that roster is suspect. So yeah, I want Phoenix if I'm Houston.
all right, I'm gonna hold my tongue on that, but okay, I hear you. Speaking of Houston, that's where we're going next. The Houston Rockets currently 28-14. They are second in the West. I don't know. I wouldn't say they were a surprise team because they were good last season. They just were very young. Ime Udoka has done a great job with that team. I think we back in Orlando, we watched that Houston Rocket. I believe it was Sacramento game
Mhm.
where they kind of messed it up at the end and lost that, but it was a solid game, and we saw just how great they are defensively when they bunker down. They are a tough team to even get the ball in or get the ball over half court against. So where would you put the Houston Rockets right now,
They're
as far as
solid
this
playoff.
season?
Yeah, they're a
Solid.
solid playoff team right now for sure. And it's not much to go into. You've kind of highlighted all the big points. We've seen the jump in defense. My only issue is if when you go into the postseason, do they have a go-to guy? Regular season, it's cool. You can be athletic, you can run up and down the floor, you can press, play all the defense in the world. But when the game slows down and you are a favored matchup, so expectations are coming at your doorstep, who is your go-to guy? Is it Jalen Green in a burner? But then we've also seen Jalen Green have a lot of cold spots afterwards. So do they have that guy? And if they do have that guy between Sengun or Jalen Green, can that guy propel you with that roster in a 7-game series? We don't know yet.
Yeah, I see them similar to a team we'll talk about in a few, but to me, they're a little like the 2024 Orlando Magic, who really good. Have a lot of young players, a lot of youth, but they don't shoot the three well. And Houston, to me, is the same. They're not a great 3-point shooting team. Um, and maybe not this season, but I know last year couldn't shoot the three well. You were up out of there fairly quickly. So we'll see how Houston does. I think they are, like you said, they're a solid playoff team. I just don't know if they have the personnel to get it done. Another team that they kind of remind me of last year's OKC Thunder, who were very, very good, but when it came down to beating teams that had a little bit more veteran presence, they were they just couldn't compete. So we'll see how they do. But I agree they're a solid playoff team. Um, a team that probably many felt was a solid playoff team, but I've not looked at so far this season. The Philadelphia 76ers, they are currently sitting at 11th spot. That's they've dug themselves out of way down. 15-27. That's still a big climb for them to get into but they're in the East, so it's very doable. But where would you put the Philadelphia 76ers right now? Embiid's doing his Embiid thing and being hurt all the time. Paul George has pretty much jumped off a cliff, got his money, and would rather podcast than go out nightly and be, Paul PG-13. But Tyrese Maxey has been the bright spot. They had was McCain, was it Jaden McCain?
Jared McCain.
Jared McCain, yeah, my bad. Yeah, they had easily the rookie of this year. Unfortunately, he went down with a injury. So where would you put Philly right now? 15 and 27.
Philly,
Yeah.
thankfully, is in the Eastern Conference, so they have a chance to make the play-in. Where I would put them is probably sneaky. I don't want to disrespect the other play-in level teams because they're only there because the East is so bad. Like, if you're 15 and 27 and you have a chance to make the play-in, that tells you a lot about the Eastern Conference. But yeah, and Paul George needs to be under fraud watch. They need to get an investigation going because how he's stealing money from Philadelphia, it's getting spooky over there, man. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to say my piece. I'm going to leave it at that. They're a sneaky team because they can make the play in, of course, but I wouldn't pick them to make the play in because the East is just garbage, and they're only in that position because the East sucks.
Got to agree. Indiana Pacers, how the mighty have fallen. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals last season, playing the Boston Celtics, the eventual champions. This year, they are. I mean, they're not terrible. They've had a rocky start. They are 24-19. That's not bad. They're fifth in the East right now. Like you said, Tyrese Halliburton went from superstar to wherever that mighty fall has gone. But they still have a solid team. So, I mean, Miles Turner, those guys, Matherin, they're not a bad team. And they brought back a lot of the pieces that they had last season. So, where would you put Indiana? Because to me, they're a sneaky team because they're a team that can hit that, just hit that stride at the perfect time and be a menace to a lot of these even Eastern Conference teams. But do you feel the same way? Do you think that they are a team that can just, contend with some of these bigger and better teams?
Yeah, I think Indiana could be a potential dark horse in the Eastern Conference. I would put them at playoffs in the playoff category.
Okay.
I think they deserve their respect in that regards. They are still one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, and
Mm-hmm.
definitely you're going to have to see them. Obviously first round right now they'd be matched up with Milwaukee, and I don't think that would be an easy series for Milwaukee. So I think they've earned their respect in that regard. And
Mm-hmm.
how far they go, honestly, just depends on Halliburton and the rest of the crew.
Yeah, Halliburton definitely has to show up, but I mean, can he flip it to Jimmy Butler style where he's mediocre throughout the regular season and turns it up in the postseason? We'll see. Orlando Magic, a team that started off hot again. They carried on from last season where they were a solid team. They were in the 4-5 spot last season, and they were pretty much in one of the top spots until Paulo went down, and then Franz, and then that kind of hurt them. Of course, you losing two of their star players. Right now, they sit in the A spot, 23-22. But this is a team that, once they get healthy, is going to be extremely dangerous. They're a big team. They can defend. I feel like they're the Houston Rockets of the East. Where would you put the Orlando Magic right now?
I have Orlando solidly in the play-in tier. I think injuries have derailed their season so far. We still don't know when France is on the way back. We've seen Paulo, and we've seen how great he can be when he's on the floor. He just has been, banged up this season, so hopefully he can stay on the floor. Um, but going into the second half of the season, with them currently being the eighth seed, and Eastern Conference doesn't look like it's going to get any better, assuming no trades happen, of course. Um, but yeah, I think they're a solid play-in team because they're going to fall in that play-in range, unfortunately.
Okay, before we move over, I think we should go ahead and, so we don't waste time on certain teams, let's go
Mhm.
ahead and put the remaining Cooper Flagg teams where they need to go. New Orleans, Cooper Flagg. Do you agree, disagree?
They're right there on 14th. So yeah, I think
Even
they're.
with Zion back, because Zion has looked okay. We've
Mhm.
given him his his lumps, but I still don't think he's long term New Orleans. I think he'll be gone. Maybe not by trade deadline, but I think by off season they'll dump him onto somebody else. But yeah, they've just had so many injuries, and this team just doesn't have seem to have the not the chemistry, but they just don't seem to have the fight to get into the playoff area. So I think they're easily Cooper Flagg. The Nets, obviously, they're down there, even though they are what are they 14 and 13, 14 and 30 in the East. That's actually not terrible to say, but yeah, we can pretty much say they're not going anywhere. So I think that's pretty much the all of the Cooper Flag squad down there. If you disagree, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Obviously, and please help us get some likes. Help us get into the algorithm, and hit that like button. Also, notify the notification bell so you can be notified when we go live and we post new content. And please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to grow, and just get a little better. So moving on, Los Angeles Clippers, a team I think you left for dead. Maybe I could be wrong because my memory isn't the greatest because we did those preseason rankings during the summer.
Mhm.
But Los Angeles Clippers, they are not bad. They finally got Kawhi back. He's been gone for who knows long, but they are 24 and 18. James Harden has actually carried the load surprisingly, while Kawhi's been gone, Norman Powell has stepped up to be a key contributor there. Even losing Russell Westbrook, they haven't missed a beat much. The Clippers, are they playoff bound? Are they a team that could, potentially be? And another big thing is they lost Paul George. They lost a very key contributor there. So they've done this without one of their main scorers, and they've done this losing a guy that was one of their main scorers. So where would you put the Los Angeles Clippers?
I think the Clippers right now is currently constructed. They are a playoff team. They have done this without Kawhi Leonard. Don't need to spend too much time on it. With Kawhi Leonard back going into the second half of the season, I look forward to them having a higher ceiling um,
Mm-hmm.
with him on the floor. And obviously, their floor isn't as low because you're really not expecting Kawhi Leonard to be there anyway. We've seen Harden, we've seen Powell, Derrick Jones Jr., Zubac. We've seen them all. We like what we're seeing on them. They're the number 2 ranked defensive team right now as of this recording. So they've been scrappy this season. I've alluded to it in every video we've talked about them. They are a scrappy team. They're the grit and grind of LA. So not much more to say. They're a playoff team. And with Kawhi there, they could be a tough out.
Absolutely agree. So let's go across the street to Crypto Arena, whatever, Staples Center, whatever. Los
Crip,
Angeles Lakers. What's the name of the news?
the
We
Crip,
still
yeah, they call it the
Crypto.
Crip.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna go to the crypt. We got your boy, LeBron
Mm-hmm.
James, Anthony Davis, the All-Star coach JJ Redick, Los Angeles Lakers. Currently, they're not doing bad. They're actually doing better than they've been doing in the last couple of seasons. Right now, they're 23 and 18. They are sixth in the Western Conference. They're beating the teams most of the times. They're beating the teams they should beat. They still have their trouble defensively, but they're getting Vando back. They seem to be, reading some reports. They seem to want to stay pat with what they have, and as they go into the potentially going into the playoffs, so maybe they'll look at the, buyout market. Maybe add one of those guys. But right now, where would you put the great LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers?
I think the Lakers right now are just very mid. Like they put the mid in this mid-season tier list. So um, I want to say that they are a play-in team. Again, I
Ooh,
think I think them being the 6th seed is a little fool's
critical.
gold, just because I know how the Lakers are. I know how they They fluctuate with their intensity, with their effort, with their attention to detail. Not going to spend too much time on this, but I think they are a high level playing team. And with, LeBron ultimately going to take some load management games with AD, probably get potentially knocked, battered and tattered a little bit throughout this rest of this season. They've looked pretty good, but they've looked really bad. So it's hard for me to say they're a lock as a playoff team. But I think a play-in is more their style, and it's more encompassing of how their season usually looks with the fluctuations of high highs and low lows.
That's fair. I think you're a little hard on your team, you and your boys. So if the playoffs started today, they would
Mhm.
play Memphis, and Memphis is next on the list.
Mhm.
So we'll revisit this after we talk about Memphis. So Memphis right now is the third seed out west, 28-15. They've done this without Ja being, the ultra superstar on that team. Jaren Jackson Jr. has actually been one of their bright spots this season. So yeah, the Memphis Grizzlies. Where would you put them? They are a gritty team. They're I think they exhibit the grit and grime of the Zebo and Mark Gasol, Tony Allen, Memphis Grizzlies. Where would you put Memphis currently in this tier list or on this tier list?
I think Memphis is a fun team. I think they're a playoff team. I think their roster is conducive for regular season wins. They have a deep bench. Seeing the likes of Jay Huff, Scottie Pippen Jr., et cetera, et cetera. Don't need to go too much onto them, but they're a fun team to watch, and I encourage everybody in the chat and anybody watching to watch them. They are a fun team. Ja Morant's electrifying. We know what he can do. Showing a little bit more leaps in his passing.
Yeah,
Not opting to dunk as much as years past to preserve his needs for the postseason. Um, so yeah, I think they're a playoff team, and I think their all star, if they're going to be one, it would be Jaren Jackson Jr. He has
yeah.
looked amazing on both sides of the floor, and I think in the last, I believe it was 5 games, I think it was like 20 something, like 24 points, I think 2.5 blocks, and shooting a certain percentage from the 3-point line. I know it's him, AD, and Wemby. So he's in good company there and definitely looking like the team's all star.
Absolutely. And what you said about, excuse me, about John Morant, of course, he went against that no dunking rule against my boy Wemby. And, the rest is history. That was on ESPN almost 24/7 after it happened. So, yeah, he didn't have to do my boy Wemby like that, but he still has it in him. Very much so. Team in turmoil right now, the Miami Heat, who have had, some standout performances from Tyler Hero, who may be an all-star this season, Duncan Robinson, Terry Rozier. They got a solid core as usual. Bam Adebayo, of course, is always a solid big for them on defense, of course. And, he rebounds and he can get you some points. But that's been overshadowed, by a distraught Jimmy Butler. Not happy there. That's pretty obvious. Pretty obviously he'll be moved by or before the trade deadline. Not a bad team right now. They're always a tough team. They're a well coached team with Spoelstra. Right now they're sitting at
21 and 21.
21. So they're 500. They're ninth in the East. So where would you put the Miami Heat? With or without that trade, where would you put them?
I'd put Miami comfortably in the play-in position. Once you go past Miami, it gets pretty disgusting with, Chicago being 19-25 and Philadelphia being 15-27. I don't see Miami dropping past the ninth seed, to be completely honest with you. So they're sitting comfortably with or without Jimmy Butler as a play-in team.
Okay. Fair enough. So we will continue in the East, a team that started off like they were stamping their flag for Cooper Flagg, the Milwaukee Bucks. Even though Giannis has been absolutely phenomenal this season, they just look disinterested. They were without Chris Middleton, but none of us thought that was going to make that big of a difference without him. But they've turned the corner a little bit. They're currently 24-17. As I said, they had a rough patch to start, but they're righting the wrongs. They're fourth out east. So as you said earlier, if the playoffs started today, they would play Indiana, a team that last year gave them fits. That's a little budding rivalry. They should have had them play on rivalry week, but that's besides the point. So Milwaukee Bucks, where do you see them in this tier list?
They're comfortable in the playoff spot. They've turned their season around. Giannis has looked all world, looking like a top 3 player, no doubt. Some people may even say he looks like the best player. Other than that, they're built for the regular season. Giannis is going to carry them to at least 40 plus wins, so not too worried about that. Outside of that, we have to see how it's going to look on the roster for the postseason.
Absolutely, a team that was phenomenal last season. Many thought after they beat Denver, were on a cakewalk to the NBA Finals, but made some questionable trades or a questionable trade over the offseason. The Minnesota Timberwolves, currently sitting at 22-21. They're ninth out west. A team that was in technically because of the way the records fell, they could have been the first spot last year, had everything worked out properly. Now they've dropped to ninth. Anthony Edwards has kind of had a solid season, but he hasn't been he hasn't been in the limelight like he was last year. They're still a solid defensive team, while not as good as last season. Julius Randle gives them something. That's the best I can say. He can give them something one night and then just be a no-show the next. He's terrible on defense. I've seen him admire LeBron dunking the ball many times while he's on the court, while he's on the same court with him. So yeah, what do you think about the Minnesota Timberwolves? Are they where should they fall in this tier list?
I think the Towns trade was a mistake. I think the Towns trade might go down as the worst trade in NBA history, if not one of though. But yeah, I think they are. Do I dare say? I'll say playing. I'll say playing, but I'm telling you,
you can't go too much further than that.
They need to be very careful how they proceed with the second half of the season, because if Anthony Edwards goes down, this team's season is cooked. So
absolutely, but yeah, oh yeah.
So yeah,
they cannot. They have no backup plan if Anthony Edwards goes out. Like last year, they had Cat, so they could kind of lean on him. If Ant-Man goes out now, yeah, like you said, it's over. They're looking at Cooper Flagg, hopefully, and maybe get rid of. I'm sure they'll get rid of Julius Randle. So the team, a part of that trade that has benefited from that, are the New York Knicks, who made a lot of moves over the summer. Brought in Mikal Bridges, re-signed OG Anunoby, got Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson. They lost Hartenstein, of course. Brought in Cat. Only problem is Tibbs like to run them into the ground, which he's pretty much doing this season as well. But even with that, they're winning. They're 29-16. They're currently third in the East, a tough East, a East that is very top heavy with the likes of the Cleveland Cavaliers and Boston Celtics. And in reality, New York's only one game behind Boston. They're one game behind as far as the 30 wins slot. They've lost more games than Boston, but they're not doing bad. Like you said, Cat has been the steal of the summer or the offseason, if you will. Playing like a bona fide MVP, could get his name in that selective group. So where would you put the 29-16 New York Knicks? And shout out to King Speech. This is his team. So sorry we didn't have you on tonight, we'll get you on Friday. But yeah, where would you put the New York Knicks tonight?
They're a playoff team, no doubt. Even though they've taken some steps back on the defensive end, I know King Speech could definitely speak more to this than me because since he's our resident Knicks fan. But nah, they're a fun team to watch. Towns looks all world this season. We're actually seeing Mikal Bridges pick his game up after looking almost like a
Oh
bust,
yeah,
I guess, this first half of
Carter.
the
Yeah,
season. Honestly, I think since Christmas Day is where he kind of like shifted, where he had that explosive game
Christmas
against
Day
the
he
Spurs,
just couldn't miss. So
and he's been pretty solid ever since. So yeah, only concern with this roster, honestly, is just the load that the star players are carrying, like or the starter level players are carrying with OG, and Brunson, Towns, etc., etc. Mikal Bridges. How is that going to look for them in the postseason? If they can stay healthy, anything's possible out east for them. But health is a big question mark for Thibodeau-led teams.
absolutely. So we're gonna finish with a team near and dear to I know BigNige. I'm still on the fence with them, but they have shown improved. They haven't lost a step from last season. They were number one out west last season going into the playoffs. They're currently number one out west midway through the season. The OKC Thunder, who are sitting at 35-7. I mean, we could potentially have that conversation about them being a 70-win team, and they're doing this. Excuse me, doing this all without, I would say, their number two guy in Chet Holmgren. Um, but they're definitely doing it on the defensive side. But they have an MVP caliber player on the offensive side who's able to get it done. And he's a mid-range sniper, which, you listen to some of these other content creators, the mid-range is dead. The mid-range is bad basketball to them, but the mid-range is a viable shot. If you can hit it, you need to take it. So, but anyway, the OKC Thunder, where would you put them? I mean, I don't even think I got to ask that, but how far would you put them up here? I mean, are you going to put them the head of the GOAT tier, second, or third, where they're at right now?
I think the way they just beat the brakes off of Cleveland, I would have to put them slightly above Cleveland, but I wouldn't put them above Boston, even though they beat Boston pretty convincingly too. We're just
Okay.
speaking in terms of the regular season. Just regular season wise, I would put them over Cleveland. I'd have them as the number 2 team, probably really number 1 team if we're speaking regular season. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna give the champions their respect. You got to beat them before I can put you above them. So I'll leave it at that. But they've been the best team in basketball, damn near on both sides of the ball for the majority of this season. So
They still got to prove to me, yes, they had that huge win over Cleveland. They beat Boston. They pretty much beat most of these teams on this list.
yep.
Something about them that I don't trust. It's kind of like your assessment on James Harden, CP3, other guys. Shea to me is not. I don't know if I can trust Shea. So he's got to show me. He's got to show. He definitely has to show improve this postseason because I don't think there's no excuse this season because last year you could say they were very young. They went from the play-in to the number 1 seed. They ran into a very good Luka and Maverick team, 2 guys that are veterans. Luka had been to the conference finals. We know Kyrie's won a championship, so you're going against that. You got that experience now. You got some veteranship with Alex Caruso. He's won a championship. And you got players that can, that don't really have pressure on them, like a Hartenstein that's going to go out there and play hard. And, you're not expecting him to score a bunch of points. You just want him to go out there, play hard defense, rebound. So he's going to do that. The key is adding Chet back. Will that cause any chemistry issues? Will that change anything going forward? They got to show me something. And because I don't want the sneaky tier to be so lonely, I'm going to do what you want me to do. I know, and put my Spurs down in the sneaky tier. So it's got a little bit more than just 2 teams. So with that said, what do you think about this tier list? Do you think, I'm pretty sure because you put most of the teams where they are, but do you think this is accurate depiction of the current NBA today.
Yeah, I would definitely, I definitely say so. I think the only team, the odd one out, maybe in the play-in, is probably Minnesota, just because they've looked pretty abysmal as of late. Turned it around a little bit, but yeah, I'm cool with how it looks right now. I mean, they could weigh in on the comments or in the chat to see if they would move anything around, but I think where these teams are, however you want to mix and match them, I think this is a good representation of the first half of the season.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we'll wait to do that. I was going to say who do you got out of this group, but we're not going. We got too long to start doing our predictions for the postseason. But anyway, yeah. Is there any team you're kind of iffy on? You said Minnesota
Mhm.
potentially going down to the sneaky. I disagree with that. Um, I would say Miami before I would say Minnesota. But the one good thing Miami has is they're in the East. But I just think Detroit can
Precisely.
pour it on, and I think Chicago can pour it on. So, but like,
Chicago don't need to, yeah,
well, yeah, I
maybe
mean,
they
yeah.
could, but, like,
Thinking about it, no, they don't need to. But
they need to lose.
yeah, they definitely need to lose because that team is not built for. They're built to where they can win, but they're not built for them to go far. If that, I'm sure, I hope that makes sense. But yeah, so this is our 2024-2025 NBA midseason tier list for the teams. Like you said, let us know what you think in the comments section, and let us know, were we wrong, were we right? Um, we just want to hear from you guys. We want some interaction, so let us know. Are we crazy? What have you? I see King Speech. Okay, he said T Wolves for sneaky, Clip sneaky, goat tier. Okay. And we appreciate MSHT. And I don't know what you're talking. We ain't playing a game, so that might be a bot. Because
Might be a bot in the chat.
yeah, I know we're on Twitch, but we're not playing any games. So I don't know what game you talk about. But we probably won't add you on Discord since we don't know what you got going on. Whoops, I pressed something. Okay, so with that said, anything you got for the good of the channel?
Be on the lookout for my breakdown of the unrivaled 3v3 league for like women's basketball. I definitely, if you are unsure about the league, whenever the video drops, maybe in the next couple days or so, be on
It
the
will.
lookout for that. I broke it down for you guys. So all you got to do is check out the video. I gave a good analysis of what that league means for the WNBA, for the NBA, and just what it mean, what that league is, and what does it entail. So definitely check that video out. It's coming soon, and you don't want to miss it.
I agree because I watched it. So yeah, it's he breaks it down. So you definitely want to hear this because if you don't know about it, it's something new. It's something that kind of crept up on us, especially crept up on me because I think it happened while we were in Orlando. I think that was the first game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's something that I think is interesting, and I think I don't know if the NBA is going to take a look at something like that. I think it would be kind of hard to get NBA players to kind of associate themselves with that, but I really think it's a solid decision for them to create that. And like I said, check that out when it drops because it will be dropping soon, where he lays out the rules and everything. So be on the lookout for that. Hopefully, my man King Speech will join me and us Friday night for Goat Talk only. Um, I believe we will talk some on that Scottie Pippen interview, and because he has some interesting takes. He said he is the greatest of all time, so we need to discuss that. Is Scottie Pippen the greatest basketball player of all time? I think we all know the answer to that, but let's dive a little deeper into that and just to put it into context. So check that out Friday. I will be putting up a the live stream link for that. And like I said, just please, like and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to continue to grow. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this. We try to do something a little more interactive as far as the tier list, and we hope you guys enjoy that. And we will be um, we're going to be continuing. We're going to try to drop some different things and try to see what you guys like. We're trying to make this channel more interactive and more what you guys that are watching really want to see. Okay, we ready, King Speech. So Friday night, I'm gonna unleash you on Scottie Pippen because Scottie has some very interesting takes from that interview. So once again, appreciate you guys joining us tonight. We will be back on Friday night. I know myself and King Speech will. I'm not sure BigNige. BigNige. I mean, he's big money man over there, so we don't know where he'll be on Friday night. So he's making them big dollars, helping to fund this channel so we can keep giving you guys this expert analysis. So once again, we appreciate you guys, and we're going to go ahead and get out of here for the night. Go check out. I don't know who's playing tonight. I know pretty much everybody's playing from my fantasy league team. So I'm gonna go check out what's going on at ESPN right now and see who's playing. And we hope you guys will come back and enjoy the show. So thank you guys for being in the chat. Thank you, King Speech. We'll see you Friday, and like I said, we will unleash you on Scottie. And yeah, so for the GoatCast podcast for January 22nd, we are out.
All right, y'all.